far as.
Okay, it's live now and we're recording on the next.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call the meeting to order. First thing we need to do is approve the agenda.
So moved.
Sean,
Ryan, second.
Ryan Ruda. It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
This is Ryan Travel.
Second.
Curtis? Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Is that on?
I think it's okay, so let's move to recognitions.
Okay, just want to point out, the last month we talked about how we'd launched into the continuous learning plan and how I thought it was going fairly smoothly. Holistically, as a whole, I'm just extremely proud of everybody involved, from students to the parents, particularly the seniors. This is a legendary time, and I think they really have done well and made the best of a situation that nobody expected, and has given us plenty of food for fodder, and thought for moving forward and looking for ways of utilizing some of the things, lessons learned and lessons we've learned not to do in the use of outreach learning as we move forward. Of course, we don't know what next year brings as far as the abilities to open or not, whatnot, but we're in the process of working up multiple plans toward that end. And once again, given how well I think our educational community has responded, we're in a much better spot than many districts across the state. I work with lots of different superintendents and listen to people talking about a variety of things. I'm not saying we're perfect by any means, but I think we've had a heck of a good go at it at this stage. So congratulations to everybody involved. And once again, it's kind of a bittersweet little thing. They'll never forget. This year's seniors will never forget this, but it's kind of tough on them to finish the year up the way it's kind of occurred. We'll be talking about graduation and whatnot later in the session. So, okay, that's it.
All right, we'll move to financials. Mike?
Okay. On page one, nothing to really point out. On page two, kind of towards the top, we paid Coonrod the payment. It's basically their last payment, but we didn't pay the full amount. We only paid 20% of that bill and kept about $53,000 back until they finish up their list that they need to finish up. Kind of a compromise there that we did for them to try to hopefully motivate them to finish up. And then on page 3, we have a categorical aid coming from the state to High Plains, $85,140. Nothing really to point out on page 4 or 5. So on page 6, our warrants for this month are $523,806.06. And on page 8, our cash balances are okay. You'll notice the food service is $41,000 negative, but we're expecting $60,000 worth of reimbursements from them. So that's why we're able to let that lag a little bit. And a couple of other federal funds are negative too, but it's the same thing. We're just waiting on funds from the state to cover for that. And then page 10, our fund expense summary, where we expect to be expense-wise, percentage-wise this time in our budget. And then, of course, the transfers on page 11. And then back behind that's the high school, middle school. If you have any questions. And we haven't heard anything about cuts this year, so in case you've been.
We'll talk about that in a moment.
On page 3, is that the last payment to Gibson Mancini?
Yes. The $3,270, that was their last payment for that bond project.
Yep.
We kind of sat on that for several months too, honestly.
Yeah.
It's quite the
Once again, shows we're all professional.
Well, does anyone have any other questions for Mike? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financials at $523,806.06.
Mr. Ryan Ruda, so move.
This is Jill George, second.
Ryan and Jill. Been moved and seconded to approve the financials. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have no public patron concerns, so we'll move to administrative reports. Dr. Myers.
Okay, you have in your spot, this is from the Finney County reopening plans. Feel free to read any and all of it, but the piece that's absolutely germane to us, of course, is K-12 higher education. Phase 1 is where we're sitting today and goes through May 22nd. Now, of course, all the various, they use a variety of different criteria to move from one phase to the next. It has to do literally with death rate, new hospitalizations, new people being diagnosed. And if you're paying attention to the numbers, I think we're north of 900 right now. I don't know how that bodes with moving from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 on to phase 4. If everything were to go according to Hoyle, phase 4 is supposed to hit June 15. It basically means we're back into regular old society. Don't know. I have no idea. If I were a betting man, I'd say we're probably not going to be a part of that at that stage. I do look for us to go into phase 2 sooner than later and then sit there for a while. That's just me and my cloudy crystal ball looking at numbers and whatnot. And of course, we're making our plans based on best case and worst case. So, and you'll hear more about that as we move on. So this is straight from the county as of, printed it off this morning. So it's fairly fresh. Secondly, as you well know, we're in year 4 of a 5-year cycle of our accreditation, the KISA accreditation. Our 2 goals are relevance and relationships. Buildings, districts, teachers, they've all really done a nice job with this. Finalizing the report to have submitted to the OVT, the outside visitation team. Rather than having the official meeting in this spring, we're going to have a 1-hour Zoom session with our chair next Tuesday. You're welcome to attend if you'd like. I can send you an invitation if you want to do it via Zoom or come right on in here. Just basically to say, here's where we are, here's what's going on. And frankly, it's different this last 6 weeks, obviously, but the work that shows up in the report is I'm really pleased with. The buildings put together a nice report. We'll have the official visit mid-September for year 4. And the state has provided that opportunity for all districts if you want to push back like that. So we did. I wanted us to focus much more of our intentions on making the homebound learning work versus coming in and just putting together a report. So not to say this isn't important, it is. So we'll have that meeting on site, according to Hoyle, in September. Then we'll have the final visit in March. And it's that visit, the 5th of 5, where our actual district goes forward to the state board to remain accredited. So that's the fruition of the entire cycle. The culminating event. So that's KISA. It's ongoing work that drives a whole lot of what we do. Moving into the summer, we're closing out. We're down to 3 days of school left. The 14th is our last day. We are going to take a break on the food service program. We're going to follow the original plan, which is what we've done every year. Is last day of school, we kind of take a break until the first full week of June. Message has gone out. There will be no food service basically for 2 weeks. It allows our ladies to take a break, and they've needed it because they've been working gargantuanly on Herculean, in a Herculean manner. They've been working, so they're tired. So we need to give them an opportunity to step back a little bit. And frankly, as numbers go up, I'm not about to say it's not going to hit us. And so if we can take 2 weeks away and hopefully clear the air, we'll come back with a fervor on June 8th. Later on, you'll have an opportunity to take action on the summer food program. Final thing is fiscal information. Like Mike said, we don't have any hard facts for you at this point, but I can tell you what's been talked about at the Zoom meetings, which entails, so it's not hearsay, this comes from the Commissioner of Education, the Financial Deputy Commissioner of Education, well, 2 of them, straight from, they are interpreting what the governor's saying. The revenues are down by $800 and some odd million. We were up by 140. So they're projecting that we'll finish this fiscal year at negative 640, 650, somewhere in there. And then they're pre-projecting for next year's fiscal year an additional 445. I don't know how they do this, but somebody does it, okay? So that's $1 billion, what that is. So you got that hanging out there. Same time, Dale Dennis, who is the Deputy Director of Commissioner, is still saying, the lawsuit and the ruling said an additional 3% is being put into the Bay State aid per pupil. So additional $137 is being placed on the Bay State aid per pupil. So he's actually saying, you're going to have the money. I personally don't believe so. I personally believe that K-12 makes up 52% of the state budget. And if there's $1 billion deficit coming, they're not going to just say, don't worry about it. We're going to take some sort of hit. So I just don't know how deep that hole is yet, okay? But it's a reality, and Mike we're doing all sorts of funky crunching the numbers we can possibly come up with. And we'll talk a little bit more of that later on in executive session. One bright light out of all this, we do the CARES money, our portion, the state gets X amount of dollars. We received $136,000 and change. That's what we get, okay? And it's to be used in one of 12 different ways. I filled out the right paperwork, got it turned in. And so one of those ways will be, later on, we'll talk about the early jump or jump start for students to bring kids up to speed. We can easily fund that in August. And I'll have far better fleshed out details for you about that later on. So, but once again, we'll make plans toward a brick and mortar. Then we'll make plans toward a virtual. We'll make plans toward, we just don't know which card will be played. But we are fully planning on having an early educational opportunity for our kids who either fell behind for a variety of reasons, or frankly, for some families and kids who just stopped working. Our percentage is way low, but we do have some. And so we're not about just to turn a blind eye. And we'll talk about that. So that's what I've got, report-wise.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Myers? All right, we'll move to buildings. Do we have Tom, or is...
No, the directors are not here tonight,
Okay.
but I'll answer questions for you if you have any about anything. If you've not seen the sunshades over at Wiley, take a trip over there. Over the buddy bench and over the sandboxes. Looks really nice. And it's actually geared for Western Kansas wind. So that'd be nice if it hangs around.
All right.
See if they last.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let's move to grounds.
We're still waiting on the details. Now that we know that we've got soil, the sheer, and thank you, Mr. Peterson, for knowing my illusion there, Joseph Heller, Catch-22. The sheer fact that we're watering the grass is what we're doing to kill our grass because we have too much sodium because it comes from the well. One choice is to dig deeper. I have no idea what that would cost. And I don't have a spade that's very big. But that's one option, to get deeper. Another option is to get this, and I don't know, we put it into the system itself so it gets sprinkled, but something to mitigate the sodium. And right now we're at 10% in certain fields. We want it below 1%. So, I mean, we all have hard water in our houses too, right? So that's what's happening. That's one of the issues that's happening. And then, of course, we need to know more about the patterns of the PSI, and we're engaging with groups to try to bolster that. But once again, even if we get the PSI where it's supposed to be, that's just going to help us kill the grass more by putting water on it. So, Catch-22.
I think I have to put some type of a filtration system
Yeah, he's talking about an additive.
or an additive.
Yeah, it's some form of additive that, and we're just waiting to hear back so we can go buy it.
The only way I could see, you'd have to drill down to the Dakota, wouldn't you?
I don't know how deep that is, but yep.
600 feet.
Yeah, and I mean, because to get out of this aquifer, it's all going to be hard. I mean,
And then you got other issues when you get down there.
Sure.
You got iron and
Yeah, you get iron in there.
yeah.
Anyway, that's the ground.
Sounds like an additive.
That's a $50,000 house well that's to the Dakotas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, transportation.
I do want to highlight, we are in the process, Sam's in the process of trying to work a bid out with a provider to, gas is cheap right now. So if we can pre-purchase it, no details yet, just letting you know the work is taking place. And this is something that will save us money. It's a calculated risk because what if gas continues to drop? But we can write it in such a manner that there's fail-safes. would save us money in the general fund, is what that would do. So if we can buy gas, these aren't real numbers. Let's say at $1.45 a gallon versus $2.20 at the pump, you're saving money. And we're looking for a contract on both the gasoline and on the diesel. So we're looking on both sides of that.
Do we have our own tank?
We have it. We have a pump, but it's, yeah.
I keep driving by and seeing the bus at Skeeter's.
And there's a variety of reasons. It's supposedly 2 weeks out. And a month ago, if you asked me, I told you it's 2 weeks out. So
It's COVID out. All right, food services.
just the fact that we're transitioning over. But I will tell you, in the month of March, we were 800 to the good. In the month of April, we're 1,100 to the good. So there's a bright star for COVID. We went to the summer food program.
That's all it takes to make it run
And
good.
we're making money. That's all we needed.
All right, technology.
I have nothing else to add to Randy's
I have
report.
a question on that clear, just with, I know that they put in about Pioneer providing the internet there for individuals that didn't have it. For those that, and I assume that ends, that free service ends as school ends.
I do not know.
I was just curious as far as summer school there, if we had students that are going to be continuing into summer school.
Well, and the vision we have right now, Ryan, is to move into, wait until August. And so that'll give us 2 months to go and negotiate that and see what we can get done.
Yeah.
So, we have to be cognizant. If we're in that form, that's one of those cards one of those hands we will deal that we'll hopefully not have to play. But,
Okay. We'll move to principals, and Dina is gone, so we'll...
I would highlight for you, she's, looking at, she's got a nice report for you. 88% of her students participation is pretty darn good, considering this is a brand new part of the world. And she's got it honed down to X number of kids who we may think to use for the jump start, and she's written about that in there. And just time and again, I sit in on a lot of the faculty's Zoom staff meetings they have weekly, and I mean they're just really they're doing a great job, and their hearts are bleeding because they're not with the kids, and that really comes through in across the board, but obviously in primary grades as well. So it's reflected in her report.
Okay. Mrs. Tyne.
Randy. I don't know what
I
happened.
think it's tied through the
What must be doing that?
yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm like, that's really formal, that's kind of scary, but I don't think I can see all of you.
It's a formal occasion.
Okay, well, I am just going to talk a little bit about the numbers of students that I have that are failing. It is better than what I put in my report, so I'm excited about that. I currently have 4 kids with Fs, and they have multiple Fs. So they just really have not engaged. We have one that have been in contact with parents the entire time. Yep, we're gonna do it. Never on the computer. We reached out to him today, and the kid is no longer with them. It's in Wichita with granddad. So that situation's a little concerning, but he was only here for a week, so we really didn't have a good handle on the family or, what was going on as far as that goes. The other 3, each have kind of different family situations, and we've really tried to work with all of them based on whatever those are. Some families are more likely to engage or accept the help that we've offered. I think in every single case, the parents are working. So, it is a tough situation at home. But, we've offered Zoom, basically Zoom support. So we just get on there one-on-one with kids, and then maybe they read through the work with them or whatever. And that has helped a lot of our kids that did have Fs. Basically, for my level, I don't want any Ds either. So I've just talked with, teachers. If you have kids with Ds, you continue the support through this week as well. And so I currently have 4 on that list. no, 3 on that list as well. So, but even just today, we've eliminated a few just by having them show up at those Zoom help sessions, which has been really helpful for kids. And then we have 5 that I'm kind of lumping in another category because they are for band. So they're passing their classes, but they have an F in band. They only had to do one thing the entire semester. So he's really reaching out to them. He's letting some of them do things. If they're on a Zoom meeting, he'll let them play right there for him while they're in the Zoom meeting, because I think they were supposed to record at least just one time of them playing something. So I think he'll probably, in most cases, I see a couple on here that have been a little bit of a hassle this 9 weeks, so they might give him some trouble, but I think we should be pretty close by Thursday getting all them off of that F list. So that's kind of where we are, better than when I wrote my report, so I'm happy about that. I have communicated with a couple of them just about the possibility of doing Jumpstart in August. So we'll see. Or I've told the teachers to do that if I haven't done it personally. So, any questions from me on that? It's been really good. I think that, that we've learned a lot, as a staff, and the communication with families has been really good too. And I hope that's one of the things that we're going to talk about this week at our final faculty meeting is, I asked them in my newsletter this week to reflect on, what they learned about family communication, because I think that's something great that we can take into next year, hopefully we're back to the normal way of educating students, but.
We use the Jumpstart for band too.
I'm hoping that we don't have any band. If we have some kids with band, things, I'm hoping that we can come up with an alternative assignment, or maybe he can continue to try to get that, even if we don't have it by Thursday. I think he thinks he can get them all by Thursday.
It's a double-edged sword, Ryan, because part of what we're talking about is civic engagement and citizenship and just simply clocking in. Okay. Same time, we're going to have to herd the cats and look at the core curriculum first. Yeah. Look at that first.
Yeah. So hopefully that will be, because when I got that, even just this morning when I got it, we were at 10. So he got a few today, and last week it was much higher. It was like 15. So he's been on them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks. Can you send Tyler in?
Yes.
Thank you.
Tell Jason that none of these microphones are working.
Okay.
Something cut off up there or what?
I think it's when he plugged into the
Yeah,
iPad. So we're being recorded still. It was fine and dandy until we did that.
Way to go.
I know. Best laid plans of mice and men.
it's like there's a bunch of chickens running around or something.
Their heads cut off.
Yeah.
No, it's not like that at all. I know exactly what that's like.
After the evening, I guess. Am I here?
You're wherever you want to be.
Okay.
There.
It's too formal for Andy, but you jumped right to it. Good on you.
Right. I was just going to give you an update. I had promised I would on the board report. Update of kind of where we stand going into this last week for the kids who would be eligible for summer school Jumpstart. We stand at 18 right now. I will tell you that on Friday, we had 84 Fs in the building. We're down to 72 today, so we're going the right direction. I do know through a plethora of documented parent contacts, we've been very consistent with that. Teachers are doing their best to be in contact with families. I can say with confidence that for all but 1 or 2 of these students, this is a choice, and we are holding them accountable. I will be making more personal phone calls tomorrow. They have till Friday. We gave them a week of grace. Kids who earned it, they've got an extra week of summer. Everyone else, we're trying to focus just on these 18 families to get these kids to the finish line. That number I gave you, 84 down to 72 Fs, that sounds like a lot, but that's 72 Fs between 18 kids. So once we get these kids going in the right direction, those numbers will go down quickly. So I just
So
wanted to
how quick do you get a hold of them?
I'm sorry?
How quick are you getting a hold of them? Is it 1 week, 2 weeks, 5 weeks?
Oh, minimum of once a week.
Okay.
Minimum of once a week. Some are, a problem we've had with quite a few, frankly, has been their voicemail boxes are full. And so you can't leave them a voicemail to tell them the voicemail is full. So we email. There's been a few where I've done porch visits. I did a personal visit today to get some work from a kid. So once a week minimum, and we're documenting when we're not able to get to them, so we can keep track of that pattern as well.
Are they a little surprised to see their principal on their doorstep?
No, at first they were, but in light of things, I started calling ahead of time because I just want to be safe. Better safe than sorry. But usually they're, no issues with them saying the right things when you're there, that's for sure.
Any further questions for Tyler? All right, thanks.
You got it.
Can you send Jason in, please?
Sure can.
Thank you.
It really is a tough thing. I mean, trauma is what trauma is, but we didn't invent kids who don't turn in work. I mean, not this period of time, didn't invent it.
I wrote this long enough ago, I couldn't really remember what all I put in there, so I just wanted to make sure I reviewed it. The one thing I guess I wanted to make sure to talk about, and I had a meeting with Coach Teeter and Mr. Walker today, is driver's ed. And they'd really like to push the start of driver's ed back even more, to just be a little bit more safe. One, Ty is predisposed and his wife is also predisposed. So he just wants to make every precaution to do it, and they want to do it in person. The state is asking you to do it in person if possible, if not, to do it virtually if you can't. So they'd really like to start with the in-class work on June 15th and then start driving on July 6th. So that's kind of the thought process that came up today, which is 2 weeks delayed of what I put in my report, which was a June 1 and a June 15. So, I mean, if you guys are okay with that, then that's the area maybe I'll start pushing some information out, is if you're okay with us waiting till June 15th to do the classwork. We'd like to really do it in person. We'll do it there's 40 students total. We'll do 20 from 10 to noon in a classroom, and then 20 from 1 to 3 in the afternoon. We'll do it in our media room where we can still practice good social distancing, because that's seats 80, so we can make sure there's 2 seats in between each kid so they're more than 6 feet away, and we can still do it in person during that time. And then start driving in July, even if we have to finish a little bit into August. Both of them felt much more comfortable with that opportunity in doing that. So that's one thing I did want to bring out. Secondly, the CASHA requirements, I also put that in my notes. CASHA has changed their summer requirements and or bylaws for this summer. So starting June 1, if your county health allows it, then schools can open up their weight rooms and or conditioning facilities to start being used for summer conditioning and practices. No school can start before June 1, but you can start after June 1. All athletes must have 10 days of workouts before they can start any team activities. So if you only work out 3 days in a week, it's going to take you 3 weeks in a day to get your 10 workouts in before you can start any team organized activities. Our coaches are planning going 5 days the first 2 weeks, and then after that back into 4 days a week for the rest of the summer. So you have to have 10 days, and those need to be conditioning activities, not heavy weightlifting, to get students, because we've had about 7 to 8 weeks now of students not being actively involved in physical activity, so they want to be able to work back into it. In doing that, normally around July 18th, there's 6 weeks in the summer, and then around July 18th is when it stops. Coaches be able to work with their student athletes. That has now been postponed to August 3rd. So all coaches can work with their athletes up until August 3rd, and then actually fall sports coaches can work all the way up with their athletes all summer long and all the way up to the first day of practice. So from August 3rd to August 15th, football, girls golf, volleyball, and cross country can continue still working with their student athletes during that time in preparing for the season. So CASHA's adjusting it. It's a 1-year adjustment. In doing so, the other adjustment that they made at their May board meeting was that schools and school boards would get to determine eligibility for the fall semester. CASHA in the past, its rules have been you must pass 5 classes to be eligible for the next semester, 5 new classes to be eligible for the next semester. We had a GWAC league meeting last week. We asked all league schools. All league schools are still planning on abiding by that same CASHA eligibility policy. It's been Dr. Myers and I's belief from the beginning is that's the way that we should also follow too. So we're planning on holding kids eligible for fall sports based on CASHA guidelines that have been there in the past. Unless there's a very extenuating circumstance, then we may review that and bring you guys in the loop onto whether the students should be eligible for the fall or not. But we're planning on following CASHA's guidelines during that time.
Jason, on the June 1 date, I know you mentioned dependent on the county health officials. How does that line up with the governor's phases? What if we're still in phase 1?
Then we have to face that. We have to use their 10-person guideline per space.
All right.
So whatever the number is, June 1 right now should be 90. If we're into phase 3 at that point in time, it would be 90. But if it's still 30 and it's phase 2, then we could only have 30.
Okay.
My recommendation right now that I told the coaches and Coach Johnson is even if we're into phase 3, I would still like for us on June 1 to be at no more than 30 people per space. And so our plan is that the wrestling room and the weight room are two separate places that are not connected. I mean, they're connected through the door, but we'll keep that door closed. 30 kids in the weight room for about 45 minutes, 30 kids in the wrestling room doing some conditioning for 45 minutes, and then they trade spots. And in between that time is a 10-minute break for them to get the drink, which they have to bring their own water bottles. We'll turn off the water fountains. They will not be sharing water fountains during that time, and we'll clean everything in that little 10-minute break that they get. They switch, and then we do that, and we'll have 3 kind of hour-and-a-half sessions. There'll be a high school boys, a high school girls, and then there will be a junior high session. Our high school boys will probably, or our junior high kids will be the only ones that push that close to 30. High school boys, we expect around 45 to 50 kids will participate. So that put us about 20 and 25 in each space. Girls, we're expecting about 30 to 35. We split them up. That's about 15 to 20 in each space during that time. Our junior highs, our numbers, there'll probably be 55 to 60 total kids junior high that will come to work out. And that'll push the limits of what we feel comfortable. And I'm just basing that on the amount of weight racks that we have and the square footage that we have to be able to keep people, away from each other.
So the only thing that will keep us from bringing kids in is if the governor backs it up to pre-phase 1.
Or we even feel that phase, the county could say, the state could be in phase 3 and the county could say, we're still in phase 1. At phase 1, we feel a little skeptical about doing something indoors. We may be moving some things outside, just taking a few like med balls and dumbbells and things like that out to the track and working out outside if we're in phase 1. But Coach Novak is working, and they're also working with Kiefer Brubieska, who was he worked as Ohio State as a strength coach. He was a long-term sub for us this spring, and he's been advising them on some workouts to help acclimate the kids back so that we don't hurt kids during this time. Okay. The only other thing is we have been really hounding our seniors for the last week on getting them seniors that are struggling with grades, so we haven't necessarily had to reach out in certain places. But we've been reaching out to our seniors. Mrs. Johnson's been basically daily contact with a few seniors that are struggling that may or may not graduate. And right now, some of them that may not graduate are making the choice to, one, not respond to us, not connect, not respond to emails, not turn in homework, not follow along with the extra due dates that they're giving them. And we're giving them plenty of time to do some things, and they're just not responding to us at this time. So just wanted you to be aware of that too.
Okay, you've got a teacher here that's not contacting students. A kid's flunking 1 week, 2 weeks. How long is it before the teacher picks up the phone and calls the parent?
In terms of a student failing or a student not attending class?
Not making contact. Is it 1 week? So I had a parent called me and complained her student was not contacted at all, and it's 5 weeks.
Student was contacted. In terms of contacting parents, we started 2 weeks ago contacting parents of students with Fs, and we did it again this week. Students were made well aware, plus Power School has been updated weekly. I've run an F list weekly, and those have been updated. So if students are connecting to their email and following along with their Google Classroom like they were asked to when we left, they would have been well aware of their grades and their grade situation.
So the parents were not contacted?
Not until 2 weeks ago.
Not until 2 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
This parent's not contacted, you contacted that parent 1 week, and hadn't been contacted, no contact with the teacher or the school for 5 weeks.
I've got logs of when we have our seminar teachers contacting students, and there was times where certain parents were not responding or replying back to voicemails or emails that were left for them also.
Okay, so we didn't contact the parents, even though the student was failing.
Correct.
You just
Until
contacted
2
the
weeks ago.
student. Okay.
What about in the lower grades, so freshman, sophomore, junior? There are several kids that aren't.
Right now, currently on our F list, we are seeing basically the same kids on that list that were on the list before. So in terms of students that were failing before we went on continuous learning and turning in work before continuous learning, 85% of the same kids are still on that list. And we do have teachers are reaching out to them and to our students weekly trying to say, hey, I need you to come to this meeting. I need you to do this. And starting 2 weeks ago, I asked teachers to start connecting with their students that have S. We asked them to redo it again this week, and if students showed some effort, then we were going to extend deadlines by 1 week if students would reconnect with the teachers. So a little bit of an increase of students that are not, weren't failing beforehand, that are struggling a little bit now, and if they're giving us some effort, we're working with them. If they didn't turn stuff in beforehand and now they're still not turning stuff in, they're having the same issue as when we were in a regular brick and mortar environment. But our numbers are fairly similar.
Okay, thank you, Jason. All right, we've got the rec minutes and service center. I guess we can tell them about our High Plains.
Yeah, have at it. Would like to.
I didn't say anything, I just listened.
Two important, or not all important, but 2 points. The disproportionality work is moving forward. If you'll recall, that means we had too many students who are identified with other health issues. That's the official determination. We've got a meeting this Wednesday from 1 to 3 and Friday from 1 to 3 to try to hatch a plan on that. If you'll recall, the fallout from that is they have to take, it's like $186,000 out of 6B, it's one of their funding mechanisms, and throw it toward professional learning to help districts, help families not take their kids to a physician to get a diagnosis that then falls back to special ed. It's just a numbers game at this point, but this is that it will have an impact on our assessment. Not just us, everybody. Everybody in the consortium or in the group. Co-op is what it's called. And the other item is, she was pushing forward with wanting to have a new supervisor/director. It got tabled during that meeting, but I saw we've got our superintendent's meeting tomorrow, and I saw that was back on the agenda again. And so at this stage of the game, I've yet to be convinced to promote that as a positive thing for our board to embrace. I just don't. She's not proving it. All she's saying is, we work harder than you. It's a hell of a thing to say. And so give me details of what that person's going to do, and maybe I could, get to where, yeah, I support that. Right now, I don't support it. But I'll know more tomorrow whether she's still pushing forward on it. My frustration is one of the fellow superintendents has reached out to her and said, hey, if you're wanting to do this, call people, talk to them. I'm not saying politic it, but share information. And that was 3 weeks ago, and I've not heard a word. But I'll be at the meeting tomorrow, by gum, and I would hope by now she's learned that I'll voice an opinion.
While you were driving down the road, so.
Anyway, that's the report for that.
Okay, well, we will move to unfinished business and extended school year jumpstart.
Okay, that's what we've been talking through as far as having individual students who either have earned their way into the need to come so they produce something, and or just kids. We're going to find kids with just holes in their education. It's particularly, you talk primary grades. There's always a regression in reading skill anyway, a 3-month regression. We're adding 2 more months to that. So in talking with the principals, what we're looking to build is from August 3 through August 14 in the mornings, half days, bring the kids in, and it'd be, pinpointed toward their individual needs. Looking at, I'm having Sam look in to see about transportation, because if we have second graders, it'd be hard for them to get there. The money we would use for this, as like I already explained to you, is the COVID money, so it's not an issue on our budget whatsoever. I mean, that's one-time money in and out. We'd follow the negotiated agreement, which allows for $15 per hour per teacher. We can get this done for $6,000. So if we have 10 teachers spending 4 hours a day, 15 hours, $15 an hour, that's $600 per day for us to fund it. Times 10, that's $6,000. If we have $136,000 sitting there, that's nothing in that budget as far as that goes. What we're going to have to hone in on, and we get a better sense of who we're really talking about, is what kind of teeth are in the dog. So, student A, we invite them to come to Jumpstart. Student A says, I ain't coming, not happening. What do we do? Student B shows up and does whatever work needs to be done. You now shall be a fourth grader. I mean, we have to make those kind of determinations. And I think it's going to come down to specifics. Like Jason was alluding to, if someone's house burnt down, if grandma died, if something, we're going to have a heart. But if we had a group of people who were failing previously, had, let's say, 5 Fs in February, and just kind of continued with that, what do you do? So we will be working it. Oh, it's turned on now. There you go. Thank you. Thank you, Robin. You just have to push the button.
Thank you, Robin.
Just have to turn on the well-oiled machine.
We need to go back to the beginning to start.
Yes, sir. Anyway, we will have that down to a T of what we're talking about as far as the students. If it's someone who just said, I'm done. And then, for whatever reason, we will look with grace, but I personally believe there has to be accountability to what we're doing. The schooling experience matters. And I think we're disadvantaging society as a whole and that kid individually if for no real reason they just stop doing their work. So then it would come down to, and this would become a policy thing, we would assign them. And the board would say, you show up, great. Move on to the next grade. You don't show up, you've made a choice. I don't have the answers for you right now, but that's the thinking that's going on. All right, so, and frankly, I don't know what other districts are doing. It doesn't really matter to me. We're small enough to know the individual kids and what their issues might be or might not be. So, but it's heavy lifting. That's heavy lifting, and I'll give you as much pre-notice as possible. If we can make a determination in June, that'd be better, because then we can start spreading the gospel. So, that's what's going on there.
All right. Well, we will move to graduation.
Jason. We just think it's important to go ahead and set a graduation date in place for you. This is aspirational. June 20th is following the full phase out. The full phases end on June 15th. So at that point in time, it's back to like it was back last October. Okay. However, if we're not fully phased out, Jason's been working out some ideas on, or even if we are phased out, possibly holding something at the football field. And so we're wanting to set in a date with the backup date, and we'll just see what comes down the path. But Jason can kind of walk through how we're looking, what it will appear to be on that given day.
So we're looking at June 20th, 10 a.m. That right in the heat of the summer, so we want to do it before it gets too warm. At the football field, we'll set up the stage kind of out on the field a little bit, allow the seniors to set on the track, and then we've got room along the fence line and up in the stands for family members to sit. If we are in the phase-out program at that time, then there's no restriction on crowd size, so we can fill up as much as we want and have our traditional ceremony. The only thing we would miss, what we would normally do in the gym, is the senior video. And we've already talked to, I believe, maybe Derek Mesa. I think there may be another student that's willing to help him and put it together and get it out to all the seniors so they all at least have a copy of the senior video. If we are still in a phase program and we'd like to have it on June 20th, another idea was to limit the amount of people that attended in person and broadcast it over YouTube. So extended family could see it, but we could have immediate family still there in doing it. If we're in that 90-person, that phase 3 kind of area, that would be a potential option. The second option then is moving it to July 25th, which is becoming a pretty common date for area schools to have graduation. At that point in time, depending on the weather and where we're at with things, we may have it indoors or may have it outdoors in doing that. And then the final option would be on Labor Day weekend, which is going to coincide with the 100th year all-school reunion. In doing that. So we thought that may be a time, if everybody's back and it's a reunion, we can still have a little bit of a bigger celebration. But those are the 3 dates that we are kind of looking at. I strongly urge for June 20th. I do think we may be in the phase 3 or the phase out program by then, at least in Finney County, and I think we could do something. If we are in the phase 3, which is the 90, is where I would say, if we're there, I'd like to still go ahead and do it on the 20th with providing tickets to graduates to have their immediate family there, and then we broadcast it through YouTube Live for extended family to be able to watch at a second location.
How many seniors you got?
We've got 53.
Now, I do know that there's a couple of them that are going to the military, and they are going to be gone already. And they need their diplomas. So we handing diplomas out as graduation as quickly, because they're going to be gone.
Yeah, they will be.
There's only been one person that has communicated that with me, but that was an early grad that happened back in December, and so we got at least a letter to let them know that they graduated, and once we signed, like I brought the diplomas up today to leave with Dr. Meyer so he can get them signed. I mean, we'll be able to kind of pass those out. Right now, the idea is that we would do it on June 20th and hand them out on June 20th at that time also. If needed early, we could accomplish.
Because he's had to be in basics already.
So they just need to contact you?
Yeah.
So if we were still in phase 3 limited to 90, looking at, less than one ticket per person.
Well, what we kind of also talked about, and this is where we would look at, we talked with Finney County Health, with them, is does one side of the bleachers and the other side of the bleachers constitute 2 separate spaces? And then if we bring in some other bleachers, or do we do half the graduates like A through G at 10 o'clock to 10:30, get everybody out, come in at 10:45 to 11:15 or 11:30, we would do the other half of the graduates, and we could fill in, some more.
And to follow the logic of what Jason's talking about, we could have 90 people in the gymnasium and 90 people in the auditorium. It's 2 separate spaces.
Right.
So I personally have no problems with, I like the interpretation of the home side is a space, the visiting side is a space. And we even talked about putting bleachers in the end zones.
Could you have chairs on the end zones?
Yeah, and you could even consider outside the fence, bring your own lawn chair and sit, and you could have, some room there too. I think that's where we'd ask for their interpretation. But that solely, we're just, literally, this is something, you guys did a virtual graduation. That's something you never did, so you were just kind of throwing spitballs at the wall for a little while until something stuck, and it was like, oh, that'll work. I think we're at that idea right now. June 20th, I'd really love to have it in person and do it as much traditional as possible outside, just to help people feel safe. And then secondly, if we're in phase 3 and we still feel like we want to go ahead and do it on June 20th, then we would either split it in half and have kind of 2 smaller ceremonies, or we have multiple locations where people really have to spread out. And in doing that, we may try to do something where we're able to even video project the current graduation, so if people are spread out all throughout our football complex, they'd be able to see it going on at that time. Yeah.
Is there a way some of the students, that have made contact are ready to graduate and ready to move on? They don't even want to do graduation. They just want to get their diplomas and move forward. Is there a way they can do it and get a hold of them?
Yeah, you guys may have better precedence understanding. I don't think there's any requirement to participate in graduation, is there? Even if it would have been just last Sunday or yesterday, if they wouldn't have shown up to it, I think we still would have given them their diploma upon completion of all the requirements. I don't think there's a requirement to participate in the
No, there's not.
in the deal.
No.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah, Sid's graduating Saturday. They videotaped them walking down the thing, and it's done. They want, like I said, some of the parents are ready to go on vacation, plan their summer out, and don't want to stop.
When this all continuous learning happened, we asked the seniors what they wanted to do, and to a T, every one of them said they wanted a traditional graduation, even if that meant we had to wait in doing that. So that's our hope is, a lot of schools have already committed to July 25th. I want to commit, my proposal is we commit to June 20th, and then if we have to punt, we would punt and go to July 25th. That gives us a month in between times. But if the decision's made today, that gives us about 4.5, 5 weeks to get that prepared for that time. So that's why I would propose.
I know this is asking you to give an answer on so many things that are unknown, but I mean, is there a certain date you have in mind that says by this date we're going to make a decision, whether it's June 20?
June 1.
Okay.
I mean, don't get much sleep right now because a lot of this is just eating up. Where I'm a guy that I want to know the next 6 months already in advance, and so not knowing eats at me a little bit. And so we would need to, I take that back, probably June 8th. That's 2 weeks ahead. By June 8th, we would have to say yes or no. And by then, I would hope by June 8th, we would know, are we transitioning into phases quicker, or are we pausing into phases a little bit quicker? But that's also why, tonight gives us 5 weeks. Then by June 8th, if we make a decision no, then we've got another 5 or 6 weeks until July 25th to get that done. Because if you guys are having to recommit to your family and to extended families, no, it got pushed back. We need 3 to 4 weeks at minimum of lead time to make those arrangements.
Jason, could we look at a second backup date? July 25th is the county fair, and there's several girls I know that will be involved.
I've already talked with Mrs. Benjon about that, because, one, she's a senior sponsor, so I knew that was also going to be close to Fair Week. She said that is going to be the premium livestock sale day, and so we would look at a different, maybe not the 10 a.m. in the morning. That may be something that we would do in the evening then, or we'd be able to have it in the gym later in the day.
Okay,
so Mrs. Benjon and I discussed that time, because something about the premium sales in the morning.
Yes.
And she thought by 2 or 3 in the afternoon we could be ready, or even we could have it as a 7 o'clock in the evening.
Okay, I just wanted to bring that up because it's several.
Yeah, because she said it's the 22nd through the 26th this year, and 25th was going to be the premium sale.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I need a motion to approve June 20th as the graduation date with a July 25th backup date.
So moved.
Sean?
Second, this is Ryan.
Sean and Ryan Trouble. Okay, moved and seconded to have graduation June 20th with a backup of July 25th at 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. All right. Now we'll move to drug testing policy.
Okay, so you have before you second month viewing of the drug proposal put together. It's now gone through. I'd engaged with KSB again, and very minimal adjustment to language on the area where it says refusal to submit to a drug test. Instead of saying considered positive for drugs, changing it to in violation of this policy, legal thing. And that's it. That's the only adjustment they recommended. So they said it's solid, it's legal, follows what we're trying to get done. They did give like we talked about, research and found out that they do not advise doing this across the board with employees for a variety of reasons, one of which could be ADA, and then the district having to foot the bill for individual rehab and whatnot for adults. Upon approval of this, the next item on here has to do with the vendor who we might employ, who I'd recommend we'd employ, rather. And Jason's got a plan to start disseminating the information to the public so that this is no surprise. And we've been pretty open about what we're doing anyway. So this is kind of like the whole intruder stuff. I hate the fact we have to do it, but we would not have pursued this if we did not think it was worthy. So anything to add, Jason?
No, other than we reconvened with the head coaches and the coaches council to just double check and make sure that they're very aware of the consequences and what that means and how that plays out. And there, again, to a T, we're all supportive of the punitive phases and making sure that we're holding our kids to a pretty high standard in doing that. With grace in terms of
Referral, self-referral.
and the counseling pieces.
Just one point of clarification there on page, I'm showing 6, underneath the violations, says that will be withheld competitions for a period of 30, and then in parentheses it has 10.
On the first offense?
Yeah. On the first offense.
Oh, I think that's a typo.
Yeah.
Okay.
So which should it be?
10, it's just 10.
10.
So we're adjusting the word, eliminating the word 30.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I think I probably just read right over that right to 10. We'll blame it on Coach Johnson, he typed it up.
There you go.
His big old fingers.
Yep.
Let the record reflect, that was Coach Johnson.
Yes.
On the definitions, is that going to be part of the policy? The reason I ask, it says in there reasonable suspicion. Nowhere in there does it say anything about reasonable suspicion. And I know that can be a very broad.
We currently have it in our student handbook right now, that if we have reasonable suspicion that we could have a student, right now it's for alcohol, that we can bring in and do a breathalyzer and/or we could have a field sobriety test done. And so that's just mirroring the language that we have in our student handbook, is that if we believe a student is high at school or at an event, then we could subject them to a drug test.
And also, Ryan, society has the watermark of probable cause. School law, this is a school law thing, they lowered the bar to reasonable suspicion to give us the abilities to act more quickly versus probable cause.
Okay.
Which this year we used it twice on a drug case where we brought in Officer Williams to give a field sobriety test. He has some different tests that will check for the magna reaction of the eye based on whether they're under the influence or not. But we did not have a test that we could do. We can do breathalyzers because we have a breathalyzing machine, but we don't currently have the ability to test for people being under the influence of drugs right now at school. And not that we literally copy and pasted this whole piece, but we copied and pasted different parts from the different groups of people that we had these policies from. So it's kind of a kind of a conglomerate of those, what we liked and what we didn't like.
And I just didn't see the reasonable suspicion anywhere in the consent form or the policy. So that's why I was wondering about that definition.
Mainly I think just because we reflected it in our handbook.
Any further questions for Jason?
I'd make a motion that we approve the drug testing as presented with the reflective of the changes.
Okay.
Second.
Ryan and Curtis. Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the USD 363 drug testing policy. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we'll move to drug testing vendor.
Okay, so in order to implement or actionize, put into play the policy, we need to actually have an organization to come forward and do the actual screening, the collection of the samples, the testing and whatnot. So looked around, talked to a variety of districts in the area, and got ideas on vendors. And the recommendation I'm bringing forward is to engage with Sports Safe Testing Services Incorporated out of Ohio, but they've been with Scott County for 10 years. They provide services in the area. By far, as far as putting into place their procedures and chain of command, custody and whatnot, chain of custody, it's solid. And so they've been at it for a long time, and not only are they good at what they do, they are by far the most economical. So the fee that they propose, $30 per test, $5 extra per test for the nicotine. We want the nicotine on there. So it's $35 per test. What we're looking at doing is 15 students 7 times throughout the year to start with a stronger presence. You can always back it up. Scott County now only does it 3 times a year, but they do 15 students. Then there's a $35 per charge or service charge to come out on site. So the testing, the whole full dollar share, doing the testing is $3,675. For coming on site, it's an additional $245. Grand total of $3,920 to engage with the Sports Safe Testing Services Incorporated to serve as our vendor for the drug testing program. And I would recommend you approve the contract, 1-year contract.
Where did we come up with 7 times per year to start with?
Let's talk through it.
Because originally, a lot of the people we talked to were doing it monthly, so we're going to go September, October, November, January, February, March, April. So the 3 shortest months where we're only in school for less than 2 weeks, we weren't going to test those months. So that was the rationale for 7 times.
Okay.
So our hope is like the 15th of each month. It would all be kind of on their schedule, but we don't start until August 19th. We end on December 17th, and then we're out May 14th next year. And so those months we did not feel like testing would not be the best utilization of the money.
And if you look through the procedures, it's randomized, and you draw the kid's number, and they're called in. They've got it figured out to the T of how they get the sampling, and like I said, the chain of custody to make sure the kid has to say, anoint, yep, that's mine. They've been at this for a while. So.
And I was just wondering about kids figuring out when the testing is done. So.
Yeah, and that's the other thing why we wanted to have more than 3, because if it was only 3, then there's a longer span of time in between. Right now, they'll know every month we're going to test, but they don't know which 15 students are going to be tested. So I wouldn't necessarily say we put it on a calendar or broadcast it. I think it's dependent on what the vendor can do and when they do it. From my understanding with Scott County is that I think Scott County does not have the company come out, but they just get this box in the mail and says, here are the kids to test and do it. So they don't even know when it's going to happen.
Maybe you covered this and I missed it there, but there's a process or a way that the students could contest it. It's where if they...
That's written into the vendor contract, a potential false positive, is that they can request a second test. And at that point in time, in our language, I think it's written as if they can test it, then they are basically on a probation period during that time until that second test comes back as either positive or negative. If they refuse to test is the language that was changed to
Right.
go into a violation.
Yeah.
I think that's why they take the 2 samples to, I think that was it.
Yeah, I think they said the false positive rate was less than 1% or something along.
Yes, they're cognizant of certain over-the-counter drugs do have impacts. So, like I said, they've been at this for a while. They understand the chemistry behind it. So.
And something about, because one of the parents on our site councils had talked about it because she's involved with it within her profession in terms of doing the drug testing, that if you're taking over-the-counter medications, you should have a certain level, but if you're abusing it, then there's a certain higher level that they're able to see within the data report.
Okay, any further questions? Not, I'll entertain a motion to approve a 1-year contract with Sports Safe Testing Services to administer our drug testing program.
Matt, I make that motion.
Okay. Jill?
I'll second.
Ryan S. Been moved and seconded to approve Sports Safe Testing. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, move to new business.
Okay, banners in the high school gym. Jason and Jerry had approached me about just the idea of cleaning up the eye lines in the gym. And so to go along with the entire movement, we're wanting the educational environment to be as attractive as possible. Just looking to adjust it. Keep the state banners, but take all the other banners and accumulate them, if you would, put them together, collect them, so the girls' track banners would all show up on the same kind of banner. The golf ones would all be on a long, continuous banner type thing. We've got, I don't know how many banners in there from the High Plains League. Well, we're not a member of the High Plains League anymore. So it just cleans it all up. That said, this is a cultural thing. This smacks of culture. X number of people are going to walk in the gym and say, about time you did that. Another percentage of people will walk in the gym and say, what the heck are you doing? And so I just wanted to bring it to you as a conversation, not take any action on this today, but to have a conversation about it. Jason will talk in a moment, I'm sure, ideas, what we could do with the current banners. The people will still, we'll still have the honoring going on, but I don't want to lead you down a fool's paradise. One of the most difficult things I did in my professional career thus far was closing an attendance center, because this kind of thing is emotional to people. And so I just want to make sure that you're aware of that. I also, in a little research I have done, come to find out this is not the very first time this has come up. In fact, I'll put words in anybody's mouth, but something about the bond issue, the failed bond issue, this was an element of this. I'm not saying that's why it failed, but there was an idea with the banners. Jason, anything to add?
No, other than we have not bought individual banners for league, sub-state, regional champions for 8 years, since 2012, since we joined the GWAC. If you look on the north end, there is a longer banner that says GWAC champions, and it's listed all there. Our proposal, one, Cimarron's getting into the GWAC, and so we have to get new GWAC signs anyway. So we are wanting to have the home side, above the home side bleachers, we'll have the 7 schools. Holcomb will be right in the middle with a big banner of Holcomb, and then the three schools on each side, from the north and the south on either side, and doing that. And then on the other side, the visitor side, what we'd like to do is each sport be represented with a long banner, and it would say basketball, track, whatever the sport is at the front, and then it would say league championships, sub-state championships, and it would just list the years that they either won league or won sub-state. And then each year that we won, we would update those banners instead of having another banner and doing that. On the north end of the gym, there is all of the state banners and state placers. So if you got third place or better in the state and a state championship, then there's a banner there. Those will not be touched. We have our 2 Dodge City Tournament of Champion banners that are on that north end. Those won't be touched either. On the south end is the pictures that were taken from the state trophies of the state championship team. Those would say up also. We want to honor our state champions and our state placers, but we feel like it's being cluttered now with league champions from 1982 that could be just as well represented in a banner for that one sport, and we could have all of our sports a little bit more organized on that wall. Because if you're looking through, you kind of lose track of wherever. It'd be pretty cool to look up there and say, boys basketball, there's 18 league championships, 18 years listed there. Seen other schools doing things similar, and feel like that would be much better representation of where we are currently, and then hope to keep adding to that as we go.
So the old banners would...
So the idea right now is with the all-school reunion coming up in Labor Day weekend, is putting them on as a silent auction item and being able to take some of that proceeds for some of our student athletes. Put it into our tournament account, so when we have to travel to Hillsborough, or swimming has to travel to El Dorado, or bowling has to travel to Wichita, we've got a little bit of money built up there to pay for some of those hotel rooms and things.
I like the idea.
I
like that, dude.
When's the glory year?
Trophies.
Well, you'd
Along
graduate.
that back wall.
So
all years
we
was
took
passed.
out trophies out of all 2 complete, and this was Rawls last year. Rawl boxed them all
Is that
up,
something
because those are actually going to be table centerpieces at the, we've donated those to the alumni group.
Whatever that
We worked
Johnson-
with Shelley Chaparral, and those are going to be centerpieces at the all-school reunion. And then I think they're going to take small bids on those old trophies to go back to the alumni association or whoever runs the reunions.
All those are going to the bathroom, they're all crooked and...
All of those plaques and stuff will stay up. It's all the ones that were the individual trophies in the trophy cases we've taken down, and we'll have those as centerpieces. Our plaques will stay up in doing that, but our banners will, the hope is that we can just kind of organize them into something that just looks a little bit cleaner. So one side, which would be the west side, would have all of the schools, the GWAC schools, the east side, which our home fans would then be looking at. We'll be able to see all of the league championships and sub-state championships that were won, or regionals, depending on what the sport was.
We're missing a banner on the north wall,
The
runner-up.
basketball runner-up, Jerry keeps saying that, and I say, we need to get it ordered, and we just haven't. He noticed that earlier this year. Was it that 2018?
Yeah, 2018.
Runner-up?
Yep. Better get that up there or we'll get in trouble.
Yeah, I'd say, the hardest part of this decision is going to be living through the first year.
Yeah.
Because once you get through that first year, people start to accept reality and
Which is why the hope of, people that have done this in the past where they've taken these down is they just put them in a box and stick them in a closet. Our thought is if we, taking them down in, late July or August, and then we have them as a place to auction, that there may be a lot of people that feel more honored to be able to buy one and go hang it in their basement or hang it in their man cave or something along those lines, versus them just being stuffed in a box and not be allowed to be honored or cherished somewhere else. So that's why we feel like it would smooth that year one over a little bit. There's still going to be some, ticky-tack.
There's gonna be some animosity there, then,
Yeah, but like you say, we haven't put a league or a sub-state or anything like that up there for how many, 8 years?
Since we joined the GWAC in 2012.
Yeah.
Now, on the south side, there is a banner of GWAC championships, and we list those on there and update that, but we haven't added an individual banner since we left the High Plains League. And they're all different colors and shapes and stuff. I mean, they're kind of mismatched, because one year, they were ordered satin, the next year they were ordered, it was more of a cloth, and so they don't even really match that well.
is there any, if we remove those banners, is there discoloring, is there going to be repainting or anything that has?
Don't know.
Yeah.
Probably.
We haven't even, we just went to the approach of, we walked in the gym, said we got to change the GWAC signs. And then we said, well, where are we going to put them? Because they're just kind of hidden in the corner. It'd be nice to put them over here, make ours really big. And then that led us to this discussion. So we haven't really even interjected to what is behind them.
My guess is there's some,
couple volleyballs.
Having just lived through that a couple of years ago at the college, that's what you start running into there, but, that's an easy fix.
Matt likes to paint.
I love to paint.
We do have a paint crew this summer.
bring it back next month?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, Jason. We will move to the JAG-K Partnership Agreement.
It's the annual renewal date for the JAG partnership. A couple things I do want to mention to you. It's a potentially wonderful program, helping our kids get the success, focusing on the success skills needed to be, whether they go into the world of work or the college, the military, whatever, it focuses on all those things that help a person be successful. Their price is going up from $6,500 to $11,000. We are working with local industries to help defray that cost, but we don't have it yet. So it's an increase. I had a really good talk with the CEO president of the JAG organization, and he assures me that they will be providing us the service that we expect for our kids. And I have seen, since that conversation, an uptick in production. So I'm pleased by that. So I would recommend that we maintain the program at least for the following year. So.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the partnership agreement with the JAG-K program?
So moved.
Curtis?
Second.
Ryan properly. It's been moved and seconded to approve the partnership agreement with the JAG-K program. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we'll move to 2020-2021 fees.
This is the annual meeting where the board addresses fees for the following school year. What I'm proposing is keeping all the fees as they were this last year. We're fine as far as these particular funds go, and given what's been going on in society, I would not like to raise any fees at all. So I would recommend that you approve the fees as they were this last year, as they're presented, to move forward for next year.
Regarding the preschool fees, I heard something on the radio just today about some burst through kindergarten grant that came through today in the state. Do you know anything about that?
I do not, but there's always things coming through. We can look into it. Do you remember the organization? Was it KSCE or is it DCF? Or?
I don't know for sure.
It was birth through what?
Birth through kindergarten grant.
Okay. Just came through approved today. Became a reality.
Yeah, I just heard it on the news at noon today.
We will research it.
You like grants?
Yeah. As long as you have a plan to fill in the hole when the grant is gone. Yes.
It was,
You like grants.
speaking of it,
Yeah, that's right. Day one.
talking about it on the news.
The governor?
Yeah.
We'll look into it.
Okay.
Matt, this is Jill. I make the motion to leave the fees as is.
Okay, Jill,
Just Ryan, second.
Ryan Ruda. Moved and seconded to adopt the recommended fees for the 2020-2021 school year as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Use of football equipment.
And once again, this is just a normal annual, we address this annually. There are no camps yet, but if, depending on what goes on with the phase-outs, there will be football camps. And so this would just pre-approve the use of the football equipment to attend camp. I would recommend that you'd approve it.
Just Ryan, so moved.
Ryan Ruda.
And Sean, second.
Sean. Moved and seconded to approve student use of football equipment during the summer. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, summer food service program.
This is going back to, this is built on the model that we had last year, going from 7 sites to 2 sites. And the reason behind that is that we just see a drop-off in summer use of the food program. So breakfast, exactly as it was last year. Breakfast at Holcomb High School from 8:30 to 9:30. Lunch from Holcomb Recreation. They like to work with us on this. So no skin off our nose, take it down to let them serve the food. 11:15 to 12:15. Currently, it'll still be a grab and go until something changes, if it changes, from the governor's orders. So I would recommend that you approve, continue the summer meal program if approved by Kansas State Department of Education. Well, it's pre-approved. I mean, we're good there. So I just recommend your approval of this.
So moved.
Ryan Ruda
Second.
and Sean. Moved and seconded to approve the summer meal program. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Executive session.
I have down 25 minutes. If you want to make it a little shorter, that's up to you. My math showed 25 minutes.
Okay, Curtis is on his first monster, so let's stick with 25 minutes. Let's go in at, what do you say, 8:25?
Okay?
8:25 to include Dr. Myers
And principals as we need them.
and then principals as we need him. So I need a motion to go into executive session at 8:25 for 25 minutes.
This is Ryan, so moved.
Ryan Trivogel
Second it.
and Jill. Moved and seconded to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
And remember, we're going into my office. So. That sounded pretty good once it got turned on.
Well, juice helps things.
Yeah.
$8.9 million.
Let's see. Children and families, administration for children and families.
Yeah, she just needed
How many dollars?
today. 8.9 million.
Well, we've got a Zoom tomorrow to talk about it. I'm sure. Always, what we got to look into is the fine print of, can we have that if we already have? Because you already have the KPP and the 4-year-old and PAT. That's funny. Said it turned on. I wonder how it got turned on.
It's still going.
Yeah, that's funny.
Honestly, I don't know.
Best laid plan. It's all right.
Robin, these are the diplomas that I think Dr. Myers needs to sign.
Sure.
Can I set them here for you?
Yes, absolutely, I'll get them to
He
you.
told me I could go home.
Woo-hoo, you're a lucky ducky.
That's right.
Yep, enjoy.
But the bad principal has to stay.
No.
Oh, we're good.
There's some, it's an eye opener, though, I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah. What was funny is, my brother went with us. That buddy of mine has a Learjet that flew us out there. So we were sitting there and the girls with pasties on come bopping by. And Cash, yeah. So Sid and Katie Amos grabbed a bunch of freaking snooty carts and ran them up there, and they buried his bag, books, everything with those carts. And oh my God, they were in his bookcase. Shaking Betty wore a pair of pants and had one in his pocket.
Okay. Let's roll. You got the roll. My mistake. That's why you keep a very strong approach in your petitions. Yeah, and then,
Just great, huh?
It's for,
Nuts.
okay, this is on as soon as we walk in here.
Okay, we're back in session. I need a motion to hire Kona Airbo as the librarian, and we're gonna hire her and give her all of her full credit for her teaching experience.
So moved.
Second.
Curtis and Jill. Moved and seconded to hire Kona. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I need a motion to hire Ty Walker and Kent Teeter for our driver's ed program this summer.
So moved.
Ryan Schreibel, so moved. And a second?
Second.
Yes. Casey? Moved and seconded to hire Ty and Kent Teeter for driver's ed for the summer. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. I need a motion to hire Angelica Robles as a full-time high school custodian.
So moved.
Ryan Ruda.
I second that.
We'll give it to Sean since he's speaking into the mic. Been moved and seconded to hire Angelica. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, I need a motion to approve the supplementals for summer employees as presented.
So moved.
Ryan Ruda,
Second.
Ryan Schreiber. Moved and seconded to hire the summer employee supplementals as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did I miss anything, or?
You got it.
All right, I need a motion to
You done
adjourn.
good.
Jill,
I second that.
Jill and Sean.
Here, turn off.
All those, moved and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? See you next time.
Unplug it.